She has worked as an editor, journalist, and broadcaster for almost 3 decades. She has written and edited many travel guidebooks, such as The Green Edit, Travel Easy Tips for the Eco Friendly Traveler, and she has been compelled to amplify sustainability stories from boutique eco hotels, and her main purpose has been to lead nonprofit consultancies. And she has produced the climate podcast series Funny Old World and the documentary Changing Worlds in the Atlas Mountains. Let's please give Juliet a huge warm welcome and a big round of applause.
Thank you. Great. Thank you so much. Amazing. Well, so I'm here to talk about travel and how travel can unlock climate solutions. People often don't think about that. They don't think, but we all love to travel. Everybody here, I'm going to guess, loves to travel. I have indeed been a storyteller for, I was going to say 25 years, but my cover's blown. So indeed, as a broadcaster, as a journalist, and I really believe in the power of storytelling. I mean, we hear that a lot, but I really believe in the power of storytelling to make sense of the world and connect with people's emotions so they actually care about stuff. They can relate to it. Now, tourism and hospitality, that's the sector I've worked in for more than 20 years. It's really neglected when it comes to conferences and climate conferences in particular. It's not featuring in any thematics. It doesn't get a dedicated day at COP. Food systems, health, they've all had way more airtime this year in COP28, which is great. But travel, no. And yet, think about it. 8 billion people in the world, 195 countries, all connected, interconnected. Everything is interconnected. I'm now going to ask you to think about a person I really respect. Now, you might not think I was going to say her because she's a NASA astronaut, Nicole Stott. I would actually urge you all to look her up. She's an amazing person. Has she been with an extreme speaker in the past? Great, of course. So Nicole, she sure will have burnt a hell of a lot of kerosene to get up there into space, but that's about trade-offs. And she spent 100 days up in space, and she says, looking back at Earth, when you see Earth, one planet, you realize it's just one ecosystem. We're one humanity. We're really one interconnected geography. And it puts things in perspective. Now, it's funny, I don't know if you've heard this expression, but we often say, if people from outer space were going to come down to the planet Earth and they saw all this devastation, this destruction, this extraction, this consumption, this waste, and this disrespect for nature, they'd say, I demand to see your manager, much like my friend said in a hotel the other day. But the difference is you can't sit down with the manager of planet Earth in a lobby. This is the closest thing we've got. COP is the closest thing we've got to sitting down. Now, it's funny because, well, I speak to a lot of GMs, general managers, in my job. So I was founding editor of a company called Mr. and Mrs. Smith 20 years ago. I have a consultancy Boutico, and I work with hotels such as, well, Mandarin Oriental Hotel Group. I did that impact report. I spend a lot of time with GMs. And they always say to me, there are 3 things you cannot talk about. Can you guess what they are? 3 things that just sort of no-goes areas. Right now, we're really thinking about these things. 1, religion. Number 2, politics. And number 3, climate change, they tell me. Climate change, they call it as well. Hello, United Nations, can we change the title of this conference to Climate Crisis, Climate Catastrophe, Climate Emergency Conference? It's not just climate change. It's a banned topic, and I think we all can agree. We probably all need to talk a lot more about politics and religion and the climate emergency. A much quoted stat is always that 1 in 10 people is employed in tourism. That's from the WTTC from 2019. Now, that stat obviously dipped massively because, well, COVID happened, but it's crawling back up. And they're predicting potentially in the next few years, 1 in 5 people could work in tourism, and it doesn't have a seat at the table here at COP. Crazy to me. So, tourism matters. Tourism doing good things, it actually matters. When I tell people I work in sustainable travel, eco-travel, I have a book called Eco Experiences, a book you heard, Green Edit. I care about regenerative travel. I care about slow travel. They just look at me, right, that's no flying, right? That's what that's about. I'm like, no, it's about choosing travel. We've all traveled. It's about choosing travel that does more good than harm, that is actually helpful. How many people flew here to Dubai to be here? Right. How many people really thought about the carbon footprint? I'm going to be honest, I felt racked with guilt Thursday when I got here, riddled with it. And I kept thinking, well, I'm freelance, I'm self-funded, I also paid to be here, so, I mean, my flight and to stay here. So we think about return on investment. We think about ROI. I want us to think about ROE, return on emissions. I'm really glad everyone's thinking about carbon accountancy. All the numbers are getting clocked up, added up. At the beginning, well, for years I've been saying, if only we could have a Fitbit for sustainability, for climate. And if you believe in manifestation, we actually did create a sustainability management platform called Weaver, W-E-E-V-A. I'm not promoting it because I want to give you the hard sell. I want you to check out Weaver because they amplify messages that matter, and that's what I hope I do as a journalist. That's all I do. I really, my North Star is to share stories that I hope inspire impact. Now, the climate changing is a big deal. It's going to affect how we all travel as well, from a personal point of view. Picture F. Scott Fitzgerald, the author of The Great Gatsby, and his wife Zelda sat in Antibes 100 years ago, 1920s. I don't know what he drank. Does anyone know what he drank? Maybe a martini, maybe a Negroni, I don't know. He's sitting there, and it's actually winter. It was winter when people holidayed in the south of France. Fast forward 100 years, from the roaring 20s to the roasting 20s. I was there in the south of France this summer. It was too hot. Nobody in their right mind is going to spend a holiday in the south of France summer anymore. It's going to go back to being a winter destination. The world is changing. I spoke to a wonderful guy from Greenland called, I'm going to butcher his name, but Hjorte. And he told me it's already 3 degrees hotter in Greenland, and it is devastating. It's affecting precipitation, it's affecting soil, it's affecting the landscape profoundly. It's not about the 1.5 degrees Paris Agreement. It's already 3 degrees hotter in the Arctic Circle. He says to me, we won't be holidaying in the south of France. You must be kidding. We all know, right? This year, hottest year ever. Guess what? Next year, hottest year ever. You see where it's going. Well, he says we're going to be taking beach holidays in the Baltics. I was in London last week. It was really freaking cold. And someone said to me, oh, it's Baltic. We're going to be taking beach holidays in the Baltics. Now, storyteller, I meant to tell you stories. I meant to tell you stories about me and my life and things. Well, I'm going to take you back to 2018. I was on a hike with some young women, students, from a charity called Education for All in the Atlas Mountains. And it's important for you to know that the charity creates boarding houses there. And I was on this hike, and these girls, I was talking to the British ambassador, and I said, the story behind this charity is incredible. Tourism created this charity. So Mike McHugo, I rang him this morning to check my stats before I give them to you. He created something called Casbah de Toubkal in the Atlas Mountains. He could see right at the top, to the highest point, one of the highest points in North Africa. He could see that a lot of the young girls weren't going to school. And the problem was geography. The barrier was a river, was up and down the mountains. The primary schools were just about reachable in 2 hours. Secondary school, forget about it. Families invest in the boys going to school. It's cultural. I'm sure you know the old adage that says, you teach a boy, you teach a man. You teach a girl, you teach a family, you teach a village. Right, I'm going to link it to climate as well. It's significant. I said to the British ambassador, this is incredible. Someone should make a documentary about this. He said, Juliet, why don't you? So I crowdfunded. I made a documentary with my friend Kuba. Never again. It's really hard. Anyone who's not a content creator, it's much harder than it looks. We did crowdfund. We did make the film. And, well, I became very close to those girls. Very, very invested in their story there in the Atlas Mountains. And I'm just going to tell you that, you know what happens, right? September, the day before, guess where I'm meant to fly to? Morocco. 11:30 at night, I'm texting with my podcast partner. He's already there, Marrakesh. The earth moves. Sorry, terrible pun, not in a good way. And the earthquake happened. So the earthquake happened in September. Education for All, many girls, so then I get emotional because I think about all the girls. But it was the absolute epicenter was right in the Atlas Mountains where the girls' boarding houses are. I didn't explain the boarding houses. So the boarding houses, the reason that's significant is because the schools exist in Morocco. It's getting to them. So the girls need somewhere to stay in the week so that they can actually go to school. And that doesn't just involve renting some accommodation. It involves finding house mothers, women who care. And this reminds us again that tourism pays for people. So they look after the girls so that the parents and families can trust them, they can get their education. Now, as I say, September, earthquake happens. And it really brought home to me the significance of education. Now, we made our documentary, we showed it to everyone. That was back in 2019. Everyone was like, oh, it's so beautiful, I love it. But that weird bit at the end that connects it to the climate, yeah, get rid of that. I can't tell you how many people said that. So, in our film, we said, educating young women. It is a UN climate solution, by the way. It means they get married later, they have fewer children, they have healthier children, they contribute to the economy. They're better equipped to deal with extreme weather. They're better equipped. Look, I'm no seismologist, and I can't tell you if there's a direct link between earthquakes and climate, but I can tell you a globe heating up affects geology, and it makes extreme weather and it makes natural disasters worse. So those young girls, the ones who'd been educated, they were able to mobilize emergency aid. I've got hairs on end because I know it happened and I saw it happen because they've been educated. We have to make these connections. It's a universal story. Educating young women in remote rural areas is a climate solution if you choose the right businesses to support, funded often by tourism. Intrepid is a big partner of Education for All. Look them up, Education for All. So I'm going to go back now to 2017, me as a journalist, me choosing to be a journalist. It's really badly paid. I like to let the world know that because it's big significance to people. And I was pitching stories to, I'm going to say who, the Times newspaper, and the travel editor said, yeah, Juliet, I'm not interested in that sustainability stuff, not me nor our readers. I kept going, always keep going. I would tell her, but there's this great hotel in Brazil called Ushuaia, where they created a capoeira academy, and that social impact really has a profound effect on the youth. Fogo Island Inn in Canada, it's the easternmost point, this island nation absolutely devastated by the decimation of the inshore fishing. Not interested. Bhutan. We're losing 1 in 7 young people in Bhutan right now who are going to Australia in search of money if we don't funnel money in there through luxury tourism. So, 2020 showed us what happens when we lose tourism around the world. Everyone grinds to a halt. We've got many rural communities absolutely starved of revenue. And why do I care about all these communities? Because I have been there. I have met them. I have met people who are different to me. I can relate to them. And that is the power of travel. I'm going to go back to Africa just for a moment and think, Africa, a quarter of the world's countries, 55. My one thing I did during the pandemic, even though I spent my first 2 years in Africa, actually, in living in Algeria, and I don't remember it, was to get to know Africa better. I owe it to Africa. I'm like, I don't know the capitals. I don't know all of this. So I spent a little time thinking about it, because Africa really is the hardest effect. I'm sure that I'm mum-splaining to everybody. You all know this, but I'm just, reflecting on it. Africa is heating up faster than any other continent. We know that. That's why Europe is colder, because it's pushing the hot jet streams up to the Arctic Circle. Basic geography, you may have gazed out of the window in that lesson, but that's the connection. Trump certainly did. We have to think about this. We have to think about all those countries that absolutely rely on our money. And going back to the aviation, I'm not going to say it's only 2.5% of emissions. I can't be casual about that. It's the biggest contributor to our personal carbon footprints. Just keep thinking of that return on emissions. By the way, it's much better to fly economy and not to change flights, fly directly. It's the taking off and landing part. And look, you'll hear loads about sustainable aviation fuel, SAFs. You'll hear lots about hydrogen. It's not coming anytime soon. We like to pretend it is to make ourselves feel better, but it's really not. It's not scalable. There's something called EVTOL, which is electric vertical takeoff and landing. It's a solution. It's on its way, but it's on the horizon. We've still got Indonesia, Mexico, China, India. Those middle classes are swelling. They deserve to travel. They want to see the world. Who are we to tell them they can't? Okay, but just think about when you fly. Don't be casual. Think about those return on emissions. Travel has immense power to support people and immense power to support nature. So in Africa, luxury safaris, oh my goodness, if you could see what some of the right safaris do in terms of, well, again, it's that connection between people and nature. They help people who in the past may have been poachers or may have used nature just to survive, chopped down trees, made charcoal. Businesses such as Ambient, who I was here on a panel with thanks to Extreme the other day, they've got lots of initiatives where they're making people rangers, paying them, giving them jobs. That is funded by tourism. We have to remember that. Now, I'm a journalist. I'm on deadline. That's 15 minutes, bang on. Okay, I've got one last reflection, really on language for you, is really use words with intention. I see sustainability everywhere as a word in Dubai, everywhere. We can't just use this word. What does sustainability even mean? Sustaining things as they are, not good enough. Need to do better, need to do a lot more faster. We need regeneration. We need to be really alert to greenwashing. I'm laughing, well, because I went, I got wet earlier in a big activation in the Saudi Green Initiative with lots of green plastic plants. Plastic plants. Sorry, my mother was northern. I got it the wrong way around. You can draw your own conclusions. But greenwashing is everywhere. We really have to be alert. We really have to think about every time we plan a trip, we decide what to do. Who am I giving my money to? How is it helpful? How am I investing in a community, in a business, in a destination that is actively a solution and helping the world? Big yawn over there. You're right. I'm over time. I'm running. No, it's perfect. How is it actively a solution to a local or a global problem? And we really have to think about our ROE, our return on emissions. Thank you so much. Thank you.